Today we are discussing Halloween with the Addams Family. As a big fan of Halloween, I'm very excited to be watching this episode. I always feel like the Addams Family is a very good kind of watch, especially around the Halloween season, because it's not like horror. It's just kind of spooky, kind of fun. It doesn't have too many dark moments. So especially like if you're like trying to have something for the family, you can just watch this nice family friendly show and have a good moment with the Halloween special. This is like something I think it makes sense for the Addams Family to have like Halloween specials because they are known for being a little bit more mysterious, a little bit more out of the norm, and a little bit different, especially for the time period when Halloween was considered so like out of the box. It's called Halloween with the Addams Family. This is something I've noticed a lot in the Addams Family. We do start off the episode with kind of a beginning, like here's where we start. So like everybody's always in the living room doing their normal things, such as Morticia is knitting, which we will see throughout all of the series and the adaptations of her later on. And we see Lurch playing the harpsichord. I think it's harpsichord. Is that a piano? I don't know the difference, but I feel like they always say harpsichord, so I feel like it's one of those. And we can see like the children playing with Fester. Mama might be in the background somewhere, but we do always seem to start off the episode with them hanging out together as a family, which does show at the end of the day this is the Addams family. It's not just the Addams roommates. They're a family. They're hanging out together. Gomez has just got a new carving knife in the mail. He is all excited. I'm going to guess since this is a Halloween special, this is going to be a carving knife for possibly a jack-o'-lantern. But if I know the Addamses, which I feel like I might, it's not going to be a normal jack-o'-lantern. Wednesday asks if she can play autopsy with the new knife. That is one of her favorite games, and she wants to play autopsy with it. Gomez tells Wednesday, no, the knife is for works of art, not for playing games. And then we have a very bizarre moment where Wednesday breaks the fourth wall and looks at us and goes, wah wah, kind of gives us a shrug. This is the first and only time so far I've seen them break the fourth wall. So that's very interesting. I wonder if that almost plays into later on, spoiler alert for the show Wednesday, but Wednesday has like premonitions in that show. Could this be a sign of Wednesday is like able to see past the fourth wall? She can see into our dimension and look at us, and especially because she's so young in the show, it's one of those things where she's not hiding from that. So this could be a sign of her finding her precognition even in the earliest series. I think that's a good question though. Has Wednesday always had some sort of premonition powers? Because with the Addamses, they're not like the Munsters. They don't have specific monsters that they're based off of. They're just like a very unique family. But now that we are seeing more adaptations of Wednesday herself, has she always had precognition powers? I think that's a very good question that we can start looking into and follow with this character throughout the different series. Just the fact that she was the only one so far who's broken the fourth wall and looked at us. I think there's a conversation to be had there. Gomez is having Fester pose for something, for a great piece of art. Fester is very excited to be posing. He loves posing for art. He's prepared. He is a little worried that Gomez might carve him up with the knife. And Gomez is like, no, this knife's for carving. And Fester's like, yeah, I don't want you to carve me up though. Gomez is in fact carving Fester's likeness into a jack-o'-lantern. This should not have surprised us. I think we all could see this coming. Like I said earlier in the video, they were definitely not just going to carve a regular pumpkin. But it is kind of funny that Fester's likeness is very similar to a pumpkin. He does have a very round head and a very round face. So honestly, he is the best likeness for a pumpkin. So this year for Halloween, we should all carve jack-o'-lantern festers or fester lanterns for Halloween instead of jack-o'-lanterns. It's something to think about. Food for thought. Morticia then, after seeing the jack-o'-lantern, says Gomez has the eye of an artist, but the hands of a surgeon. And she says it somewhat provocatively, because we know that they have a good time and they like to get a little bit saucy. Gomez and Morticia then talk about the guests coming over for tonight, possibly, and how the children are so excited to get their costumes and go out trick-or-treating. This is their favorite time to go out, and they are getting all pumped up and ready. We then have Lurch and Morticia preparing for the party tonight, preparing dinner, preparing items. Morticia is pouring some different things into a cauldron that look like they're in little vials. It's giving off very much like a witch's brew type scientist feel, while Lurch is preparing sandwiches. As usual, Lurch is our guy. He is preparing stuff for the family and making that food. I honestly would love to try out Lurch's like meals. I feel like he knows how to cook. Also, in the later adaptations, when we see in like the movie, Mama's the one normally cooking, but I do like that so far in the series, we've only seen Lurch cooking. So he's not just like a butler. He does all the things. He's also a cook, a chef, probably gardens. We then see Morticia preparing a lot of food and a lot of items for the party or the event. I will say we're already 4 minutes into the episode and we haven't really had much happen yet. It does seem that this is going to be like a very much an event style episode where it is going to be just very much about what's going on, and not necessarily any plot heavy kind of stories, which is odd because up to this point in the Addams Family, each episode really has very much had like we're in the plot, we're in it, things are happening quickly, and it's kind of odd that we're already in like minute 4 and it's kind of like we've only established that they're having some sort of event or party. So, I mean, each episode's written a little differently, but I just noticed so far this one is running a little bit, not with a lot of storyline so far. We then get to see Mama. She comes running down saying, Pugsley and Wednesday are ready for trick-or-treating and they are all dressed up. Also, I'm so excited to see more of Mama. I feel like we do not see enough of her. I didn't notice this till this rewatch, but she's not in it that much in the early episodes. So I'm hoping we start seeing more of her because she is just such a good character and she's so much fun and she brings a lot of intrigue to the show. So I hope we see more of her as we move forward. Because again, like I said, I feel like we haven't seen much of her. We then get to hear a police siren. There's a siren outside for some reason. Gomez has a face of glee when he goes, "Ooh, it's a police siren." I think I have an idea where this is going. We just heard a police siren, and now there are 2 mysterious men outside in a car with some bags. I have a feeling there's going to be some hijinks and some mischief going on in the Addams house on Halloween night. And like I said, it took a while to get to the point, but I think we're going to have some plot happening now, which is exciting. The 2 men say then that they have to hide somewhere. They look at the Addams house and they say, "Hey, we'll go into that like abandoned house. We'll go hide in there." Oh no, they won't. The cops won't come looking for us in there. And so they are going to go into the Addams house to hide out, it seems. They do also take time to comment on Gate. Gate was closed a moment ago. Now Gate is wide open. One of the men has noticed this and said, "That's crazy. Wasn't that just closed?" And the other one's like, "You're losing it. The stress is getting to you finally." So they walk through the gate. We then see Pugsley and Wednesday's outfits. This is one of those things where Wednesday is dressed in a pretty little white dress and Pugsley is dressed in a little suit with a little tie. They're dressed very normal. I feel like this is one of the tropes they do a lot with the Addams children on Halloween, that they are dressing up as normal people because that is what they think of as something different. So they are dressing up as the abnormal to them, which would be the normal to mainstream society. Morticia and Gomez are outraged that Mama would dress them so scary. This is supposed to be a fun, family-friendly night, and Mama dressed them up terrifying. Why would she do that? As usual, Mama is getting the short end of the straw because Gomez is going off the handle. Mama deserves some respect. Put some respect on her name, boy. She's your mother. Come on. Sorry. I love Mama. Mama's one of my favorites. For once, Fester's being helpful to the children. He puts out a good point of, when you knock on the door, children, just say, "Please do not be startled. We are children in costumes." Normally, we see Fester going after the children for some reason because he has a weird need to get his nephew-in-law's approval for some reason. Despite being terrified of their costumes, the Addams decide to take the children out trick-or-treating and prepare for a fun night out as a family. This actually is interesting. I feel like this goes back to some of the original artwork. We do see them on Halloween night holding a jack-o'-lantern, I believe, out trick-or-treating together. So this actually, I think, is a reference. Like this whole kind of like where they're going and having like the jack-o'-lantern be around, I feel like is a big reference to one of the older issues of the comic. Meanwhile, the 2 men are outside hiding in the bushes while the Addams are preparing to leave. Also, I noticed one of these actors, I believe, is the actor who played Mr. Wilson in Dennis the Menace Strikes Back. The only reason I remember that movie or anything is the trailer because it was on the VHS opening for the Addams Family reunion, which is one of my first VHSs that I owned myself. And I remember his face. So it's interesting that he's also in the original Addams show. So it just feels very serendipitous that this actor is popping up once more. Fun. Wednesday is the first one to notice that the 2 men are hiding in the bushes. And she said, "Look, Father, we have visitors," points at them. I do feel like it's really interesting that she is, first of all, breaking the 4th wall in this episode. She's the first one to spot people who are not supposed to be in the house. So on some level, she has some sort of level of precognizance to see something that could be dangerous to her family. So again, I think this does lend itself to the idea that Wednesday has always had some form of premonition, even if it isn't as dramatic as the drop the head back, go, like they do in the Wednesday show. The men say, "Don't come any closer. Don't come near us." And Gomez assumes this is because they are terrified of the children's costumes. So Gomez says, "Children, please say your little speech." The children say, "We are just children in costumes. Please don't be afraid. We will not hurt you. We are dressed in costumes." Gomez, being a gentleman as always, invites the men in for drinks and coffee and punch and all the good things that you invite people in for. The men hear a siren in the distance, so they say, "We'll take you up on that. Let's go inside of this house that we thought was abandoned and go visit with these people who are not knowing who we are. Let's do it. They agree to it. They're down. Gomez decides to leave the children trick-or-treating in Mama's capable hands. He says those words, "I'll leave them in your capable hands." She raised you, Gomez. Yes, she's capable. I don't know why I'm going in on this, but you know what? I want more respect for Mama. Also, I feel like this is the way to get rid of her. I don't want her to be out of the episode. I want her to be the whole thing. I want her in the background making sarcastic comments. I want her making a brew. Come on, give us more Mama. Gomez invites the men in. He introduces them to Morticia. Morticia is always a good hostess. Of course, they bring in Uncle Fester, and everybody's ready to have a nice little time with these new guests because, as usual, the Addamses are very friendly despite being a little bit on the bizarre side. They do seem, as usual, most put off by Fester. I'm guessing having a bald man in a monk's costume show up out of the nowhere and be very happy and very cheerful to her could be a bit startling. I personally don't think so, but I also love Fester and the Addams in general, so I don't know. Leave a comment down below. How'd you feel if Fester just rolled up to you and was like, "Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the house." Ah! Gomez then introduced them to Lurch, who is putting out some hors d'oeuvres. As usual, he looks put off. Lurch does not want to be interrupted. He's trying to get his job done. He has a house to run. This is his job. And you're having him meet new strangers who are clearly not good to have in the house? Come on. Either way, Lurch looks put off. He's not about it. The men have a giant bag that they do not want to part with, but Morticia insists that they put candy in the bag because just because you're adults doesn't mean you can't enjoy the fun. The men are very upset about this and they do not want their bag being taken. But Morticia says, no, Gomez, give them some treats. They deserve them. They were out trick-or-treating. This shot is interesting. So Gomez opens the bag. There's a bunch of money in it. A lot and lots of money. So obviously, us watching at home, we realize, oh, these guys are on the run from the cops. They have a bag full of money. They probably robbed a bank or something. But the man goes to grab it and said, "Hey, mister, don't touch my money." And then you just see Lurch put his hand on the guy's wrist, and the guy knows he's done. You do not get to reach for Mr. Addams. Lurch will stop you in your tracks. Gomez then believes that the neighbors are giving out money instead of candy for trick-or-treating. And Morticia is proud to live in a neighborhood where they are that generous. I also love the idea that the Addamses are probably the richest family in the neighborhood. They live around a bunch of people who are probably middle class who cannot give out money. But they assume that their neighbors are rich like them. So like, yeah, definitely. These people are giving out money, giving out like loads and loads of cash. That makes total sense, of course. So, of course, Gomez adds a bunch of money to the bag and says, "Happy Halloween, trick or treat. There you go, buds." So these guys really did find the best place to be. They went somewhere who they're not going to turn them in. They're going to give them more money. Oh, I can't help but feel like these guys are not going to be cool with just getting a little bit of extra money from the Addamses. They found out the Addamses have money, and there's two trains of thought. They could have more money from the Addamses, or they also might think that Gomez himself might be a bank robber and might steal from them in the future. So they need to know where Gomez got the money. So it's not enough that they have the money from Gomez and Morticia. They also need to know how they can get a lifelike mask like Lurch so they can use it for their next heist. They go over to Lurch and say, "Hey, buddy, where'd you get the mask?" And Lurch says, "It's mine." They then realize that Lurch is not wearing a mask. He is for real a giant man, possibly made of other parts, which I believe we find out for sure canonically later. I don't know if we know that for sure yet in this series, but we do know later on that he is on some level some sort of Frankenstein-esque guy. They are ready to hightail it out there, but they hear the police siren once more. So of course they say, "Nah, we can hang out a little longer. We can chill. We can party. We're cool." Morticia and Gomez then go to work on the punch, talking about their guests and how charming these men seem to be. And Morticia says that one of these men reminds her of Rupert Sticks. This is the first time we've heard this name, I believe. And Gomez says, "You said never to say the name around me again." We find out that Rupert Sticks was somebody that Morticia was once engaged to. Very interesting. We do see this storyline very often in later adaptations. I want to say in the new Addams Family, it ends up being one of Gomez's cousins. His name is not Rupert Sticks, though. I think we could also say there's an argument for some of the flashbacks in Wednesday with young Morticia and young Gomez could probably imply that there is probably a storyline like this in place somewhere. Again, we did not meet a Rupert Sticks yet, though, I don't think. Despite the Addams' hospitality, of course, these men are trying to rob them. While the Addams are making them a nice punch, they are trying to break into Gomez's desk. The two men say they might have to get rough with the Addamses if they get caught, so they better get this done quick because they don't want to have to rough them up. Meanwhile, Fing's hand comes out behind them and reaches into the guy's pocket, pulling out his weapons so that they they cannot hurt the Addamses. Thing is much like Lurch in the respect of he is not going to let the Addamses get hurt by these men. The man then tries to pull his weapon on Morticia just to see that it is a banana that Thing had replaced his weapon with a banana. So the man just is now holding a banana at Morticia. This is a very dark moment. On some level, he was threatening her. But thanks to Thing, everything is fine, and it turned out kind of funny instead of being more dramatic. The Addamses then say that they're going to read a poem to the men, and the two men are like, I'd rather be in prison than hear a poem. Get some culture, guys. Come on. Put some things into perspective. Sit through a poem. Fester then says, let's have some ambient lighting. So he turns off all the lights and then he puts a light bulb in his mouth and glows. Again, I think this is what every single episode so far we've seen the Fester light bulb trick. They really did bring this out every episode. Good for them. Pop off. Gomez then starts to read his poem about Halloween Eve and all of the fun things. I'm going to guess this is like a 'Twas the Night Before Christmas for them almost. This is going to be that style of work. So they listen to it or read it every single Halloween and they have a nice time celebrating. Yeah, this poem definitely seems like a parody of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Even Fester's then quoting things about like mice and chittering and chattering and twittering and whatnot. The two men then run out. They are terrified. They're not having it. They don't want to be a part of this poem anymore. They don't want to be a part of this family's house. They would rather risk it in prison. But the cops are literally right outside, and so the men turn back once more. This is the second time that they have tried to make a run for it and could not make it. So the Addamses are like, hey, welcome back. Glad you're still here. Let's have some fun. Again, very considerate. Very nice of them. Morticia then tells them, now we will have some real fun. Honestly, I wish they would say, like, let's go play Wake the Dead, which is a reference to the first Addams Family film. When they are at the very end on Halloween night, they're like, what do you want to play, children? And the children's like, let's play Wake the Dead. I don't know if the concept was not made, obviously, in 1964 for that like kind of joke for the movie, but it would be a fun, like, throwback. I can't imagine they're going to bring it up, but if they did, it'd be kind of cool. They are not playing Wake the Dead. They're, in fact, playing Bob for Crab. Which, honestly, it sounds like a harder game. You have to fight back. The crab's not just going to let you bob for it. You have to, like, fight a crab with your mouth. Interesting. Honestly, I wouldn't personally play it because I don't really like seafood, but it's a fun concept either way. The cops show up at the Addams' house, and they tell them that there has been some men on the run doing some bad things such as crime, and the Addams, of course, are like, wow, your costumes look great. You look great for trick-or-treaters. But the cops are like, no, have you seen, like, some men? Then the two men who are actually the criminals do decide to hide their faces by bobbing for crab. So they put their face right into a giant tub with a crab inside of it. Probably not a very good idea, but that's what they do. Yep, that is in fact a bad idea. The crab grabs their noses. I will say also Gomez tells the cops that no, there are no criminals here, just some family friends playing some games, having a nice time. So it does seem that these two men might have gotten away with it. Then Kitty comes down. Again, I feel like they're going to use this footage until the very end of the series. They have footage of the lion walking down the stairs, so we're going to see a lion walking down the stairs in every episode. The men are absolutely terrified to be seeing a lion in the house. They're like, no, please, no. We don't want to play with the lion now. Fester then decides to bob for crab as well. But I don't think they put the crab. There's only one crab in that bucket. And I don't think they put the crab back in. So I think Fester's just throwing his head around a big bucket of water. It's Fester, though. What do we expect? The two men have to discuss cops or no cops. If they stay here, they're not going to survive the night. They got to get out of this haunted house. They have to decide if they're going to leave all the money or not. Because it might be a lot of money, but is it really worth their lives? The two men then say to Morticia and Gomez, hey, we have our own game we want to play. You want to play some hide and go seek? And Morticia's like, maybe. And like Gomez is like, sounds a bit mild. We were just playing Bob for Crab. You had to like literally fight back. What was you're bobbing for? That sounds kind of mild. We don't know if we want to play like a kid's game of hide and go seek. Fester then says, goody, I'll play. I'm not having any luck with this bobbing for crabs. Again, Fester, I don't think you didn't put the crab back in the bucket, so you just have your head in a bucket, I think. They then explain the game to Gomez and Morticia and Fester of how do you play hide and go seek? Well, you hide and then we find you. And Morticia's like, and? That's it? There's like nothing exciting about that. Okay. Morticia and Gomez then kind of go over to the side and whisper, and they're like, I think it was a bad idea to bring these men into our house. They're not very fun. Morticia also then goes on to being like, hey, they are our guests. We probably should be like hospitable to them, even though it is a little strange that they want to play hide and go seek. The two men then start counting while the Addams prepare to play hide and go seek for the first time. I feel like in the background you can hear some sort of siren, so I feel like their time there is numbered. The cops are getting closer. While the Addamses are hiding, the two men try to break back into Gomez's desk to see if they can steal some more money from them. You will notice that these two men are starting to get on each other's nerves. They are not doing so well working together. The stress of being in this strange place and being on the run from the cops might be too much for both of them to work it through. They finally get into the desk, but it does not matter because Thing is locking the door. You see his hand reach out from the umbrella stand and lock that door. They are not getting away. Thing really is the MVP of this episode. After stealing a bunch of the Addams' money, the men run to the door and they say, you know what, we deserve this money. We went through a lot tonight. We went to this family's house, ruined their holiday from being around their children. We gave them boring games to play. We weren't nice to them during their hospitality. But you know what, we deserve something nice for our trouble. So we took the money. But you know what, boom, that door is locked. Thing got you. Morticia and Gomez are in the greenhouse and they see the two men struggling to get out. And they're like, these men are very odd. What are they doing? They don't think they understand their own game. They're not even looking for us. They're bad at playing hide and go seek. And they're not wrong. That's not how you play hide and go seek. You don't just send people to hide and then steal all their money. The two men then are now looking for another exit, trying to figure out a way out of the house. Also, not trying to catch the Addamses and find them. They're trying to get out of there smoothly. They are standing by the suit of armor, and if I know anything about the Addams family, I feel like Fester's going to pop open that helmet and be like, boo, found you. Boom, there's Fester. He's in the suit of armor. He's like, I'm right here. Honestly, I love that they use this gag. I feel like it's just a very cute, very clever gag. So fun, such a fun image of him in that suit with a little face, all scrunched up. Adorable. They then run to another door, and Lurch is posed. He is braced against this closet door. He can barely fit, but he thought he was hiding well. He's like, honestly, it feels very much like we caught Lurch doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. Like he was like trying to sneak out or something, or he was trying to play like he was part of the wall or something. This image, I think, is just very much like almost kind of funny and shocking in a certain way. Mama returns with the children, and that is the men's chance to escape out the front door that they first came in. So they run out as fast as possible, leaving Mama, Pugsley, and Wednesday in the lurch waiting. Going to be like, why are these people leaving our house so quickly? What's going on? Morticia and Gomez are like, that was really odd that they had us hide and then ran off. Those are some odd guys. It was weird that they did that. It wasn't very pleasant. It wasn't very polite. But then Gomez is like, it's cool. Don't worry. They'll be fine. They're getting themselves a ride. The cops are picking them up. They're going to probably give them a ride home. So like those guys will be fine. They might be a little weird, but they'll be fine. The episode is ending with all's well that ends well. We are seeing Morticia knit an obscenely long piece of material, possibly an outfit. She is knitting something very long, and it is obscenely long and crazy looking. Gomez is doing his yoga while Morticia continues to knit. This is kind of what they always seem to be doing. Gomez is doing a lot of yoga pretty much throughout this whole series while Morticia continues to knit this. I want to know if it's the same piece of like knitting she's doing. Is she using she's doing like one long thing? I'm curious. Hopefully by the final episode we finally get to see it. The last thing that Gomez sees in the paper is that their friends from the other night have been sent up the river. Gomez and Morticia are like, good for them. They needed a vacation. They seemed a little bit high-strung. They were acting a little off. They seemed like they needed a vacation. Obviously not realizing that means that is like a way of saying going to jail. Overall, this is a really fun episode. It's a fun Halloween episode. I do feel like we have a very similar episode like this in the new Addams Family, I think. They do this a lot where they have like the robbers come into the house on Halloween and then the Addamses kind of like freak them out to the point where they leave without their money, stuff like that. They do that pretty often. So I feel like we will see this again when we review the new Addams Family series. As far as like a fun little thing from this one, the Wednesday breaking the fourth wall and being the first one to sight those men, I do think we have something here to say that she has some level of visions early on in her life. So I don't think we can confirm yet, but I'm hoping as we move forward, we'll be able to pay more attention to Wednesday and her visions. That on some level, she does have some special powers already, even if that is something new they added to the lore with Wednesday, the show. I do feel like there are things to be said here that she is more aware of things, so the pieces have been set. So I do feel like there is some level of saying she probably has some sort of visions already or has some sort of level of precognizance or whatnot. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more content just like this. Bye. Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. The creepy and the kooky, they're all together ooky. I'm serious and spooky. The Addams Family. Da-da-da-dum. 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 Da-da-dum. You know the one. Everyone knows that song. At least I hope you do. If not,